All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of One Take. And this is your host, Sean, again, and I'm joined by my friend, ThatSamoanGuy, again. Welcome back, ThatSamoanGuy, to the podcast.
Yes, welcome. That's Samoan guy. Back to the. Oh, you mean me?
That is you, man. That's
Oh,
your
okay. I
cue.
thought you meant. I thought you meant the other one.
Oh, there's another one?
Yeah, his latest movie is out in theaters right now.
Are you talking about Black Adam?
Yes, I am. That was the joke I was going for.
I see.
Ugh.
Well, welcome back to the show again.
Well, thank you.
So
We
this time around, we have
we have a
another list.
super informal. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not really gonna be quite as formal as before.
So
Or typing good.
we kind of came up with this since it's October and it's the season. We're only like a week away from Halloween now at this time we're recording.
Yep.
So we decided to do like a 10 horror movie list of, or not even just horror movies, just like Halloween movies that we love to watch for the season, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I'm gonna do it by release year order. So the earliest is gonna go first. It's not really a top 10 per se. It's just 10 movies we're listing off that we love to see around this time of year. So did you want to get started first? Because I think I started the last top 10 list with the top five best and worst last time.
Maybe you should, just because of what I have to preface with as well.
Oh, so do you want me to go
With my
first or do you want
list.
to go first?
No, I think I should probably take the initiative here on this
Okay,
one.
so what's your first pick?
Well, I did not go. I just want to preface my own too. I did not go by year like you did. Mine was I had a hard time just sitting down. Like I drafted like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down. I'm gonna type out the horror movies that come to mind. Kind of like freeform writing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stopped at like I blacked out, and when I came to, I was like, oh my god, this is too much. What is wrong with me? I can't do this. Um, so I'm just going by like the only one that I'm for sure saving for last is for a particular reason. So this is
Okay.
just in any old order. These are just yeah, like you said, these are just things that like I have to watch every Halloween/October to make my uh spooky season complete. And my first one is just Aliens. It has to be. I
Hmm.
watch Aliens every year.
Let me
Um,
get that up.
Now we're starting semi-controversially because I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, but Caleb, that's not a horror movie. That is an action movie." Shut up! It scared me as a kid. All
It's
right,
still a horror movie to me. Like it's still an
would you?
action horror movie
It is
considered.
still suspenseful. It is still absolutely suspenseful, and like a lot of the imagery too uh, is definitely it is still a horror movie. It is more actiony than the previous one as a result of its budget and the direction they went with it, but it is still absolutely a horror movie like through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Um and a lot of it through I mean the things you see is obviously pretty horrifying, but some of the things that you don't see too, like they just kind of like you don't see what happens to Newt's parents, but when you see like her face and how
Mm-hmm.
like shocked she is and how even when she starts talking, how cold she kind of is to the whole situation, she's just so numb to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you really think about it, like that is horror still. Like that still is like a tragic thing to kind of think about. Um, and I like that it still is like it's got super memorable characters. You like all of them. I've never liked the idea, the approach to writing horror characters to be intentionally douchey
Mm-hmm.
in order to justify killing them off. I'm like, well, sure, you can have like one that's like that, but if you do the whole cast like that, I don't know, that kind of loses the whole horror element. If you're not
Yes.
horrified in with what happens to them, then it's not as effective, I
It's
feel
not
like.
scary anymore
And
at that point. It's just annoying.
yeah,
Sorry, I
you
don't
don't
know why that
care.
the poster covered the whole page, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Well, I mean, that's
Aliens really is a type of film that just grabs you by the face, and it's just holy shit.
mhm. Yep, yep, it goes for it. And I mean, I'm also definitely biased because it's my favorite Alien movie in the series, but um, without a doubt, like the last decade or so, I have to watch that every October.
I do think Aliens is also, I think it's hard to choose for between me and that one and Alien. I love both
Mm.
just as
Hmm.
much, if equally, honestly,
Hmm.
because what Ridley Scott did for that first film also was just legendary too. I mean, like
Hmm.
the world he set up and the design of the creature alone,
Hmm.
fucking fantastic
Yeah.
design. So if it wasn't for Ridley Scott, I don't think we would have had Aliens, but it is in one of those rare cases where the sequel is debatably better than the original. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer, but also it's kind of hard to say a right answer either. But it's like,
Mm.
what do you choose?
What a what a what a terrible problem to have.
It's like choosing your favorite child, essentially. Like, you can't
Yeah.
do that.
Nope. All
Uh,
right, you
but that's
deal.
your first pick, Aliens?
Yeah, that's what I'm starting with. Yeah.
That's a good pick. Good first pick. Um, my pick. Oh my god, my cats are fighting. I can hear them on my bed.
My cat is crying to get into the bedroom. Like
I
she's
know,
really
like they're
upset that she can't
fighting,
come here.
and I'm like, I want to stop them. Should I stop them real quick?
Yeah, go stop him
I'm
real
like,
quick.
hey, come here. I don't want them fighting. That's why. Hey, go away from her.
I'm gonna go get mine too. Jesus Christ, what is happening?
I know this is way out of. This is why it's called one take, because we just have to do it in one take, even if shit like this happens. I just heard a loud ass growl from my background, and I'm like, what is going on up there?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think I'm good now. They started to separate their ways. Okay, so my pick next. My pick next. Okay,
Hmm.
my pick next is 1978's Dawn of the Dead from George A. Romero.
Nice.
This is my personal favorite zombie movie of all time. It's also my favorite Romero film of all time. I
I can
just
see
think
why.
I just think this film is legendary in so many ways.
Mm.
For starters, it was one of the first zombie horror films in color. Like it,
Hmm.
it really brought out the gore and blood, and it was like shocking to a lot of audiences back in 1978. So it was like,
Mm.
oh shit. And what made it really what really made Romero's films stand out to me at the time, also, this was during a time as well when racism was still big. He always puts African American leads as his main characters,
Hmm.
and that's why I love him so much, because he just doesn't give a fuck about the system at that point. So it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Romero is truly that indie filmmaker that was given like big budgets. Like, I just love him so much for the behavior he was given with his cast and crew. Like, every story I've heard with Romero has been a very positive take from
Yeah.
everybody. Man, it's kind of sad that he's not here with us anymore, because I would have loved to see him do more zombie films to this day. Honestly,
Yeah. Well, and he always, like we said, like he liked to slip in very small doses of like commentary. I would be very interested to see, you know, how he would approach that with a new film, like if he was around to
I'm
make
pretty
something new.
sure if he was still around, he would have made something on the pandemic and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like
but not
some
in like a exploitative kind of way, like an
no,
actual clever way.
he wouldn't be a fucking, like, I don't know who did that recently. I don't
Not
even.
not in a big way, but there were
Not a big way,
definitely
but
like,
there have been some filmmakers that have done that, and it's so gross to me.
uh-huh, yeah,
But Dawn of the Dead is truly, to me, one of a kind. Not just in its commentary and its cast and its director, but also the setting. It's a
hmm,
unique setting with the mall, because like it is kind of smart to think about. Like, wouldn't you want to take a mall for yourself? Like, that has a bunch of supplies and guns and stuff like that.
yeah,
Right? It's
and it gives
honestly
it a lot of ammunition for jokes too.
It's the reason why I love this film so much, is that even if the characters make flaws, they are still smart in most of the
Hmm.
choices they make.
Yeah,
Because that's why I love Romero so much, is that he writes his characters very smartly.
yeah,
And so, for that reason, I just think Dawn of the Dead really stands out to me in terms of the zombie landscape. I know a lot of people are getting tired of zombies these days, but this is truly one zombie film I will never ever get tired of watching.
Yeah, that's fair.
Your next pick now?
Well, if we're kind of riding that zombie train, I may as well,
Ooh.
because I don't have like a particular order. I can just pick, whatever
Mm-hmm.
out of the thing. Return of the Living Dead.
Oh.
It comes around
You
every
know what?
year.
That was gonna be
Uh,
my second choice for a zombie pick because I fucking love this movie too.
yeah, I mean, Dawn of the Dead is like, I'm just gonna admit it. Dawn of the Dead is a better movie, but Return of the Living Dead
It's a funner movie, I think. Like
is
it's
so much more fun,
so fucking fun.
and like it manages to do it while still being like it still does have an air of creepiness and unease to it because you have a preconceived notion of what a zombie is. You know what the rules are. But as the movie goes on, it breaks more and more rules to the point where you start to feel like uncomfortable and like unsure. You're like, we're running out of time in the movie. Like, how are we going to come back from this? These things seem really tough to beat. Like,
You can't, yeah, they're essentially unkillable at that point because all of
hmm
their limbs and bodies even move independently, even if you sever it off. So it's like,
hmm
so essentially they're unkillable. So the only way
hmm
to kill them is fire, but even that's bad because the rain comes down to make even
that's
more
like
zombies.
that blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought that was a sure, no pun intended, a surefire bet. I thought that was the number one guaranteed out that you could have, but it's like that's actually like the worst thing you could do because of fucking
So it's
science.
essentially you're screwed either way in
hmm
this world.
And like the characters are all super memorable. The Tar Man effect is still every time they pop the door open and they let him into the room, I'm always just like in awe. I'm stunned. I'm not sure what I'm looking at because the effect on that thing is absolutely insane.
It's an incredible practical effect, honestly.
When yeah, when he strolls in, he's got no eyelids, and just the way he moves, I'm like, oh, this is creepy.
Um,
um,
Also they talk.
they talk, they plan, they specifically want brains. They don't eat any other part of people. They just specifically want the brains.
I'm assuming that's it because it makes them smarter. That's why.
Mm, it eases the pain that they're in, supposedly.
Yeah, and that's also a reason too.
hmm
Um, One of my favorite
It just
characters. Oh, sorry. Go
uh,
ahead.
no, go for it.
My favorite character in this film was Spider, the curly-haired black dude, because he was just
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah,
It's like he was
the
always
other,
cussing at the guys. What the fuck's
yeah,
going on out there? Uh,
yeah. It somehow like it has the air of like a party. Like if a party was somehow condensed and made solid into a movie, like a disc, like it would be a DVD copy of Return of the Living Dead.
so I have a story to tell with this movie, a little
Mm,
story. So I was like maybe like 13, 14 when I saw this film as well.
hmm
I was with my aunt and uncle at the time, and it was in our garage. I think we were watching this in our garage on our projector.
hmm
And I swear to God, watching this for the first time with the jokes it was so hilarious because my uncle gave the best laugh you could ever imagine because he was just like laughing at every single joke, and you just can't help but laugh too. This is just so
hmm
fun.
Yeah,
So
I believe it.
I just think Return of the Living Dead is just so much fun too
Yeah,
to watch all the
yeah.
way through. So is it my turn next now? Oh, okay. Oh,
Right back.
you're gonna like my next pick actually.
Mm.
Oh, you're gonna like my next pick. So this
If
is
it's
def
Halloween Kills, I'm gonna
no.
reach through the
We're
monster and
just
I'm
gonna
gonna
leave the
take you
Discord right away.
out.
I would never ever put Halloween Kills on this list ever again, on any
That's
list.
how I know that you've been abducted and they have a robot taking your place.
Then you might as well. I might as well have been probed at this point.
Ooh. Yep.
um, but it is a Halloween film, believe it or not.
Okay. So I kind of called it.
So you kind of called it. It's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Mm.
My personal
Oh,
favorite one.
yes. Let's talk about Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch. When I first discovered this movie, I didn't know what I was going for because I heard, oh, it didn't have Michael Myers, it's a completely
Hmm.
different movie. And I'm like, it's the worst one. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see, let's find out then for
Yeah,
myself.
you got to know.
I gotta know. And then I put it on. I bought it on. Believe it or not, I actually bought it on the Scream Factory Blu-ray. That was my first like um physical copy of it. So I was
Okay.
like, okay, I'm just gonna see what it is. And honestly, I just fell in love with this movie ever since watching it. Like, it's just such a atmospheric ride from start to
Hmm.
finish. Like from the beginning, the get go, like you already hear the synthesizer music just filling in that ease, and it's like it's so good at
Hmm.
building atmosphere and tension throughout, without even having to deal with a serial killer per se in this film. And what really makes it stand out to me is just the whole aesthetic of like Halloween throughout. I honestly think it has more of a Halloween aesthetic than even the first film does. And I love that first film too. But
Yeah, but it's more concerned about Michael than it is
then it
about
is about the season of
Halloween.
Halloween. But this one
Yeah.
is definitely like full on Halloween costumes, trick or treat lights. You see it
Hmm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Masks. Oh, you get masks everywhere in this film. And in fact, they
Hmm.
kill you.
It's a mask fetish.
Oh, I've always wanted one of the silver shamrock masks when I saw this film. I have silver shamrock socks that have the logo on it.
That's cute. That's cool. I like that.
I also have a button that has the logo too.
I also just like, not that, I mean, this sounds terrible, but I always have like a little bit of more interest and more respect for a movie when it's like, yeah, fuck kids. Like we'll kill kids. They don't care.
You know what? I kind of agree with that too, because
It does raise the stakes.
it doesn't. It just comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh my god, it's actually serious now.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
well, it was serious before that, but like,
Yeah.
it was when they killed the kids. It's like, oh, they
Mhm.
really went for it, huh?
And it didn't feel like exploitation or just for like cheap shock value either. Because I've seen some off the top of my head. Ben Affleck produced a horror film called Feast, where
Oh,
they
I've heard
killed
of that
a
one.
kid. It's okay. It definitely thinks it's cooler than it actually is.
Wasn't there
Um,
sequels?
there's like three or four.
Yeah, my
Um,
brother's seen those films.
yeah, they're stupid. But they kill the kid in the first 10 minutes of the first one, and it really does just kind of come across that it just comes off very hollow and empty because I mean, first of all, like the kid didn't say two words. I don't know if I like the kid or not, but like it really just feels like they only put the kid in there to kill them off in order
It's
to make the
shock
movie
value.
feel really like dangerous. And
It's
it's like,
shock value.
yeah, I'm not falling for it though. Like,
Yeah, but
it's like you kept
that's
him
why
in for the
it's not good
least
shock
amount of
value.
time. It's you waited until the 10-minute mark where he's like, I don't know, for insurance purposes, is legally required to be on there. And then once it hit 10 minutes and 2 seconds, you're like, okay, let's go ahead and axe him. Like, fuck it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Also,
So it has to be done right.
without spoiling the ending of
Mm.
Halloween 3, it's one of the most chilling endings to a film, honestly.
Did you hear that the lead guy, Tom Atkins, came out and said how the movie ends after it cuts to black?
What did he say exactly?
Well, I can't. Well, I mean, you didn't want to spoil the ending. If
Well,
I
he's
say it'll spoil. I'll tell you after we
okay,
are done recording. But
okay,
he
for
did
sure.
come out and make a statement about it. He's
So there
still
is an
very
actual theorized ending from him.
Yeah. He's still really he is super all about that movie. He's so glad that he made that movie, and I think it's funny.
I think everyone should be proud of making that film because it's a
Yeah,
really good horror film, and I don't think it gets it maybe it gets talked about nowadays, but back then it clearly did not because it was considered not the good one. It was considered the one without Michael Myers. But
I actually
honestly,
yeah.
I'd rather have it take risks more like this than take another Michael Myers film. Honestly,
This one's kind of coming back into circulation and social circles because of the
of
new
Halloween
movie that came
Ends.
out. Yeah, because it took a while for Michael to show up in that. It's like, well, you can't hate that movie for not having Michael in it when you like Season of the Witch. It's like, but Season of the Witch was never trying to be about Michael
It was his
Myers. So
anthology film.
it is allowed to not have him in it if it wants to. Halloween Ends specifically bills itself as being the conclusion to the this new Michael Myers storyline, so it does kind of actually have to have him in it.
I didn't hate Halloween Ends as much as everyone else did. I'll say that, but I do think like some that perceived notion of like saying it doesn't need to have Michael is kind of bullshit to me. Like
Yeah.
just it does need Michael. It's called Halloween Ends.
Yes, they've been building it up for two movies. Like,
Give me a break.
yeah. My
All
turn.
right, that was Halloween 3, my pick, my second pick.
Yep.
So what?
Uh,
What's your next one?
if okay, so I was gonna go next. I would put up Evil Dead 2
Oh my God! Guess what?
as.
That
Huh,
was my
you got.
next film too.
All right. Well, hey, fuck it. Let's
Wait,
just
wait, hold
both.
up. Okay, where is it at? I think I have it as my fifth choice, I think. But still, like I'm gonna put it up right now. So
Sure.
I'll just grab this real quick. I'll put that up there as my choice here, and then I'll put that as your third choice. Let's see here. Oops, too big. But here we go. Okay, Evil Dead 2. Clearly, we both love this film then, if we have it on our list.
It's okay. It's okay. No. Evil Dead 2 is like watching like it's like taking a madness pill for 2 hours.
You might as well be on acid for 2 hours and just be.
It's nutty. Yeah, it's really kind of a nutty movie.
It
And like
just doesn't give a fuck.
and this is very similar to the Alien and Aliens situation where it's like, well, but they're both in terms of like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2. It's like, well, but I mean, they're both good. You can't go wrong with either one. It's just a matter of like personal
What do you
preference.
prefer? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and for me, I prefer Evil Dead 2, personally.
I think I do too. I really appreciate Evil Dead 1,
I
but
do too.
I think Evil Dead 2 is where they really nailed what they were trying to do with Evil Dead 1,
I agree.
personally.
And while I think Army of Darkness is also great, I think it leans a little too much on the comedy stuff things per se. I
Mhm.
think Evil Dead 2 is the perfect balance of horror and comedy to me.
I think that the amount of comedy in Evil Dead 3 is fine. I think it needed more horror to balance
That's
it out.
why I just think it
I
needed more
didn't need
horror.
I didn't need less comedy. I needed more horror.
And I like Army of Darkness still. Don't get me wrong, I love Army of Darkness, but
Sure.
I still think Evil Dead 2 is the best in my opinion because
Yeah.
it just has that perfect balance of tone in my opinion. And
It's a good example of what horror, all the different things that horror can do and still be accepted as horror. Like, you go through a lot of emotions in that movie, but you never question what genre you're in.
Bruce Campbell just fucking gives it all in this fucking movie, man. Like, oof.
Any Anybody else in that role in the movie immediately takes a nosedive.
Yes, and I think Bruce Campbell was perfect as Ash Williams in my
Yeah.
eyes.
And I can even think of good actors that would do a good job, but it really is Bruce Campbell's baby. Like, straight
You
up,
just can't see anyone else with that chainsaw hand.
nah, no. Like, Raul Julia, nah. Uh, Bruce Willis,
No.
nah. No, not doing it. Like,
Not
it's
even.
only
Like,
Bruce
it's just
Campbell.
not even as badass as Bruce Campbell, in my opinion. Like, if you played the Evil Dead game too, like, it's clear like what happened?
I forgot there was an Evil Dead game.
It's actually not bad
No,
for
it's
what
not.
it
I had
is.
fun with it. No,
Hmm.
yeah. I knew you were going with it.
It's just it just I feel like it needed a little more content personally. That's just me. But
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
but I thought it was fun for what I played. Have.
Evil Dead 2 is also a really good crowd pleaser. Like
Mm-hmm.
Halloween is also about like getting a group together and putting on a scary movie together. And Evil Dead 2 plays really well with a crowd, especially if you've got people mixed in there that have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what's about to happen.
It's so much fun.
Yeah,
Did you hear Raimi's doing a new one?
I did. Yeah.
Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm into
excited.
it. Yeah. He clearly like still has like directing chops based on Multiverse of Madness. So I'm into it. We'll just have to see
Man, the
who else is
directing
behind the camera.
Multiverse of Madness was so good though.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
that's
Like
what well
he's
when we were talking about Multiverse of Madness, we were
mhm.
saying like the second half was like when Raimi felt like took over the film. Like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, yeah, the Marvel execs left the room and then Sam was like, "Okay, but for real though, I want you to do
Let's get
this."
started, guys.
Yeah. And that's what I mean
Let's
is
get to baking.
that's what I mean is that like he still clearly has like a penchant for it. He still has the talent for it. He's not like as much as we were just talking about Romero, like love the guy, but his last few movies, especially around Diary of the Dead, I was like, I don't know what you're doing right now, man. Like, you need to be pulled in a little bit, or have a second executive to pull you back a bit. Sam Raimi still clearly like has not lost his groove at all.
I'm excited for the next Evil Dead whenever
Did you
that comes out.
did you see what I did there? I said groove,
Oh, it's groovy.
and in the movie he
No,
says the
no,
word.
no,
Oh
no.
fuck it.
All right, so technically that was both of us that went. So I guess
Mhm.
you'll go again. I guess.
If you want, I can.
Yeah, you can go again. So what's your fourth choice? I guess.
I'm gonna throw out the ring.
Oh, are we talking about Ringu or the remake?
See, when I put this down on the list, I put the ring slash Ringu, and I figured I would make a decision later. And here we are in on recording, and I have not made a decision. So I guess I would generally recommend Ringu more,
Ringu?
but yeah, but if you're Joe Popcorn and reading is too hard for you, if grouping words together in a sentence from left to right gives you a headache, then go with the ring. And yes, I know that sounds pretentious, but like
Let's see here.
it,
I'm
you
just
read
wondering
you
what
you
poster I
read
should
ev-
pull.
you read every day. Like just read it.
Um,
But
do you want me to pull the American poster, or do you want me to pull the Ringu poster?
follow your heart.
You know what?
Whatever one comes up first and is an actual image that you can use and not
That's
just like
actually
a
a creepy image.
bullshit.
Holy shit. No,
Yeah, okay, go with that.
I'm gonna go with the Ringu image, cause the
Yeah.
poster, because that's a creepy ass fucking image.
I think Ringu is overall a little more effective and it doesn't have they both have like moments of drag, but I think Ringu has less and they last less time whereas the American version of The Ring is still very good. I'm actually surprised at how good it is considering the ratio of
American remakes.
well of well translated American remakes of Asian horror. And also, fun fact, the guy that wrote the American remake of Ringu,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Kruger, also known as the guy that wrote Transformers
Oh,
2 and
oh
3.
my god.
Yeah,
You're kidding me.
sit on that for a minute.
The
So,
so you're talking about the same dude that did the most terrifying film, one of the most terrifying films, also did one of the worst films ever made.
also gave us, scenes of dogs humping each other for 2
That's
hours.
just
Yep,
something
same guy.
I can't process, honestly.
I think that's partially a credit to I mean, obviously it's a different director for each project. I think so. I think it speaks to the importance of having the right person on your project. Um, but also when you have to translate something like Ringu, you have to work within certain parameters. There's certain rules you have to follow. You're basically like it's like adapting a book or a screen a musical or something like that.
Hmm.
When you're doing Transformers, there's no
There's no
it's the
direction.
Wild West. You
There's
can
no
do whatever
direction.
you want. Yeah. And especially when you have Michael Bay to enable you to just do whatever you want. Like fuck it.
I legit saw a video of Michael Bay doing an interview, and he was like, what's the one thing you like about films, Michael? Explosions,
Hmm.
explosion. And it's like, oh, but
Yep.
that's fucking not surprising at all.
But the Ring, yeah, I actually do think that the Ring is is actually a very even on its own, even if you didn't tell someone that this is a remake of some kind, I
It's
think
a
that they would
solid horror movie.
it's a good mystery. It's a good horror film. It doesn't overplay a lot of the uh conventions that you would see around that time period. It picks its moments very carefully, which is really appreciated.
We don't talk about rings, though. We don't talk about rings.
No, we're here to talk about good movies. I do still think Ringu is probably more effective, and that might be it might be partially because of the language barrier
Hmm.
that helps it
I
to
think it
that
was
aids to
also
its
just
mysticism.
the time nobody really saw anything like that, too. And it was like,
Yes.
oh, so creepy.
Hmm. Yeah, it gets under your skin quite a bit. And like honorable mention too, Ju-on and
The
the
Grudge, yep.
corresponding, yeah, those are actually not bad either.
Hmm.
I think Ring stands on its shoulders and pulls everything off a little bit better. But I would be
The
remiss
Grudge is
to
still
not
creepy
mention
as
that
fuck, though.
it is still super creepy.
I
Um,
remember being freaked out when I saw the American remake back when I was like 6, and I was like, what the fuck?
hmm Well, in the Ring, both Ring and Ringu have a really strong emotional core when you get to the spirituality of the movie, like what they're about.
Hmm.
It's a very easy and relatable thing to understand once you kind of realize what's driving the movie, what the primary emotion driving the actions in the movie is. So you end
I
up
think I
walking away feeling, you know, understand like you feel like empathetic for what's
Yeah,
going on.
I
Yeah.
I feel like I need to rewatch The Ring. I haven't seen it in years,
Good.
so
Yeah. Go for it. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it if it's been that long.
it's been really long since I've seen both versions. Um, so that's your fourth pick, The Ring
Hmm.
Ringu.
Hmm.
Okay, so I guess technically my third or fourth pick here, I guess.
Hmm.
I don't, it's from 1984, and
Mm.
this is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I thought it was the other film that was also from 1984, but there's two films I have from 1984 on here.
Mm.
So, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one,
Okay.
or just
Yeah.
the series in general, I've always honestly had a really great time with. Like even the
Hmm.
bad ones, like as much as I dislike some of the bad ones, I can still appreciate the creativity that goes into them, at
Yeah.
least. Because
Hmm.
they're just some of the most creative horror films I've ever seen in my life, and it's all due to the wonderful direction of Russ Craven.
Yeah.
Um, Freddy Krueger himself is just one of the best horror villains I've ever seen on screen. He has such a good personality, thanks
Yeah.
to
Bar
Robert
none.
Englund's performance.
Bar none. Yeah.
And he's one of the few horror actors that reprises well in all the films. In
Yeah. I
all
know.
the films.
Yeah. Like Frank Hodder was Jason for
Like three, four
seven.
films?
I think 7, 8, 9, 10, or 8, 9, and 10, something
It
like
was
that.
7, 8, 9,
Or
10.
Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, it jumped around. A lot of people wore the mask, but like, yeah, Robert Englund just kept coming back and kept coming back.
And he put in 100% in this role each time. And I've always
Fucking, he
appreciated
even came
that.
back. He even came back for Freddy versus Jason,
Dude,
which he
that
really didn't have to.
I love that movie, honestly, because of how fun it is. Like, it's just so much fun.
It's stupid, but it's fun.
Like, but like, if like once you get to the fighting of Freddy and Jason, it's just so thrilling, though.
That's another good one to put on if like specifically if you're hosting like a Halloween party and you want something on in the
I've done
background.
that before on Halloween parties. I put on Freddy versus Jason in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, because everyone fucks around and talks for the first hour and a half, which let's be honest, that's about how long it takes for Freddy and Jason to start fighting. And then once the fight starts, everyone crowds around. It's like, yeah, get him, Freddy or
Get
Jason.
him, Jason. Get him, Freddy.
Yeah. I always, yeah, Freddy was instrumental to my uh, appreciation for horror because and my sister was a the gore whore in our family, and she would usually rent like the same horror movie every time. But when she took, she went with Nightmare on Elm Street, and like it was still scary, but it had a different element to it
Hmm.
too. Which again, it was Wes Craven, it was Robert Englund, and then also like as the movies went on, they tried to you know
It got sillier,
lean into it. Yeah, they tried to lean into it a little bit with the jokes and
which I
whatnot. But
will
that
admit
does,
it was kind of its downfall for some of the films. But
in the long run, yes. But I also think that they just kind of plot wise, also character wise, they kind of ran out of things to
they
do.
were. It did feel like they were just running out things to make up at the time, even though
Yeah.
still Robert Englund and the cast was still giving 100%
Hmm.
in these films. You can tell as the franchise was going on, it started to feel a little stale. But then it started to go back up when the new Nightmare came out at the
Holy
time.
shit. Yeah. New Nightmare's my favorite of the series.
It's top three for me. I
It's
would say
incredible.
that one and the third one are also really great
Yeah.
Nightmare films.
People forget in the first one, the one you have on your list, that like Freddy did make jokes, but like
He
people
was
forget that
not funny.
in the first one, like when he did make a joke, it was that kind of like the Joker kind of humor. It was like
It
you
made you
laugh
uncomfortable,
and then
like
you
a
kind of
laugh
like, oh,
uncomfortable.
you kind of feel bad for laughing at that though, because that's not funny.
And then the
Wasn't like pulling out the
brutality, the brutality of the first film honestly stands out to me too because it's still pretty brutal to watch in
hmm
some scenes.
You want some trivia for this one too?
What's the trivia?
So they take Nancy to a sleep clinic, right? And they try to
Mm-hmm.
monitor her brainwaves when she's sleeping. And it's that whole scene where she finds out that she can bring things from her dream
Like
into real
Freddy's
life.
hat and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the guy that's the doctor in the other room
Yeah.
that's like
Whoa!
monitoring the system
Yes.
is the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Yes, that's fucking.
Yeah.
That's
I forgot
him.
his name. Yeah.
I don't remember. Oh, Charles Fletcher is his name. Dude, I couldn't believe that was him.
It's
I
so
heard the
funny.
voice.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh
You
my
go,
god,
oh,
is that Roger Rabbit? When I
holy
saw
shit,
that
it's Roger.
the second time,
It's so good.
it's
It's so
so good.
random.
Ugh. Um.
I also really I know we appropriately gave Robert Englund his props, but I also think that Nancy is kind of
Heather.
one of the perfect
Yes.
protagonists, like horror movie protagonists ever.
It's all due to Heather Langenkamp being a very strong performer too in the
Yeah.
role, and I'm glad she's making a comeback recently because she's in the latest Mike Flanagan Netflix series.
Yeah, I
So
heard.
I do want to see that at some point.
Hmm.
And I did hear they do want to make a new Elm Street at some point. I just I don't know when.
I'm so for that. I'm if you can get somebody uh to if you get the right casting and if you get someone creative to direct
Hmm.
it, not like whoever the fuck they got to sleepwalk through the last remake that they did.
It
God, that movie pisses me off. And you know
pisses
what's
me off
funny
too.
is that I don't really care about for Jason Voorhees. He's never been a character or it's not a series that I really connect to in any kind of meaningful way.
Yeah.
But his between the two of them, in terms of like remakes, the Friday the 13th remake isn't awful. It's not great, but like it's
Better than
decent.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
It is by far better because I can actually like stay awake during it
Hmm.
and like ironically that was another thing about the Elm Street movies was that the idea because everybody has scary dreams, right? But making a movie leaning into the idea that you could actually die in those scary dreams, I'm like, that is
It made people
cruel
freaked
and
out of sleeping
unusual.
at
That
that
is
time.
terrible and brilliant at the
It
same
made
time.
people at the time not want to sleep anymore.
Hmm.
And I heard actually some stories that there were some kids that were like, "Oh no, I can't sleep anymore because of this
Mm-hmm.
film."
Yeah.
That's how scary it was, and that's how I think I made such a big impact upon people. Even I think more so than Friday the 13th, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street to me is one of my favorite horror franchises of all time, and
Mm-hmm.
Freddy Krueger, one of the greatest villains of all time.
Yeah.
We're at the halfway point, but before we continue on, I just want to use the bathroom for a quick 5-10 minutes, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Go for it.
If you want to do it too, feel free, audience members, and you too, Samoan as well.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, you guys.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Okay, so we're back now.
Bathroom police.
Always wash your hands.
Yep.
um, you know how you were saying smoke 'em if you got 'em before I left? I was
Yeah.
just thinking of that quote from Spaceballs. Smoke if you got 'em. And
I'm
he
not
just
even
drops
kidding
to the
you.
floor.
I said that, and then you muted, and then I out loud because I didn't realize that you muted right away. I
Mhm.
out loud just went, "That was from Spaceballs,"
Oh my god.
and then I saw that you muted, and I was like, "Oh, he's gone already."
Perfect thoughts process, my dude.
We are synchronized.
Okay, what's your fifth pick now? Fifth pick?
Let's go with the thing.
Ooh, if we're talking about John Carpenter's thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Not the thing from another world or the thing from
and not
2011.
and not the thing from Fantastic Four, and not the thing from Adam's Family,
We're
but
talking about
specifically John
John
Carpenter's.
Carpenter's 1982 The Thing.
Yes, that is, in
So,
fact, correct.
I also think this is my favorite Carpenter film of all time.
Yeah, I think so too. I tend to I bounce around between this and Big Trouble in Little China.
Ooh, yeah, top three for me as well. Oh, so good.
Hmm. But we're talking horror this
We're
time,
talking about The
so
Thing.
yeah. So Big Trouble it loses out in that
I
category.
mean, John Carpenter had to appear on this list one way or the other. Like, it's just.
It
Uh,
wouldn't be a list.
it wouldn't be a list without at least a mention of Sliver of Carpenter on
Yeah.
here.
I mean, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I was talking about how some of my previous movies were pretty good crowd pleasers.
Mm-hmm.
This does not play well with an audience. This is a slow, quiet, creepy little movie. But honestly, I'm like, that's kind of what horror also is. Like, it's also meant to get under your skin and make you think. Um, I mean, what do I say about the effects that hasn't been said already?
Some of the best work ever made, man.
It still is, like to this day. I've seen good effects in the last 20 so years, but like nothing holds up to the thing. I still, even now, like last year when I watched it, I still notice things design wise that I didn't before. Like there are elements of that thing's design when it's changing shape where I was like, maybe this isn't random. Maybe it's like picking, this is like leftovers from other creatures that it's copied from other planets. And it still got me like thinking creepy stuff.
So, you want to know a fun fact about those special effects?
Tell me a fun fact about the special effect.
The creator of those special effects, Rob Bottin, also did
Mhm.
all of Paul Verhoeven's films, RoboCop and Total Recall and Starship
Cool.
Troopers. Mm-hmm.
That's a fun fact. What happened to my voice just then? That is a fun fact. Yeah, I like that.
And also, he made the Night Walkers in Game of Thrones.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's what, if I'm correct, because it
There's
says he
some
did Game of Thrones as well.
there's some connective tissue there. I can see that.
He also did Legend,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also responsible for Seven and Fight Club.
Okay. Interesting. I would not have. Okay. I mean, yeah. Good for you.
And
I
also,
would
he
not
worked
have.
with Carpenter before the thing with The Fog.
Mm. Yeah, which is not my favorite John Carpenter movie.
It's okay. I think it's
It's
decent.
okay. Yeah, it's just also not my favorite.
Yeah, but
Um,
this film though, the thing.
I think I think the performances also are just as good as the special effects in this movie. Everyone has just the right amount of, I don't know how else to say it, reaction to things. There's a lot of really good like over the top moments. There's a lot of really good downplayed moments. The scene when the I forget the character's name. Was it no? I forget the character's name.
Childs?
But when he has a gun and he's just like going nuts.
Oh, you're talking about the
This
doctor?
Yeah, like that felt really visceral and like oh shit. Like and it was totally believable too. And like the doctor didn't even seem like cartoonishly over the top. You know what I mean? Like he
Mm-hmm.
was
Everybody
still
seemed
active.
real in their performance,
Yeah.
which is to me the best compliment you could say about acting skills in my eyes. Because
Yeah.
if you don't believe the performer, then it's going to take you away from the film, you know?
You're disengaged, yeah. Speaking of performers though, that dog,
Oh
grade
my
A.
god.
One of the best animal perform, and I'm not even being ironic. I genuinely am like that dog hit all of his marks perfectly. That is a well-trained dog. He knew exactly what he was fucking doing. Like, and working with animals is tough for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. It's expensive for a reason. You sometimes have to do a whole day of reshoots just because an animal ain't feeling it, man. Is not the day for it, and they don't understand. They don't care. You can't tell them like, "Hey, you're being paid to do XYZ. Just fucking tough it out." They don't care.
And it's sad though because like some people will force them to do that and abuse
Mhm.
them, and it's like that's
Yeah,
not the right way to do that shit.
no, but that dog knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like watch it again and really think about getting the how you get the dog to do all the shit he's doing. And it really like again like speaking to the practical effects, just put a real dog in front of the goddamn camera. Don't do this Pinocchio thing where you CGI the cat the entire time. Like, just give me a real
Oh
goddamn
my
dog.
lord, that was such a baffling choice for that remake to make, man.
We'll
Well,
Spoiler alert. We'll get into that when we talk about our
oh,
worst of the year.
absolutely spoiler alert. But
We'll just have to tune in next time.
but John Carpenter's the thing though. Ugh,
Hmm.
so good.
It's like sirloin steak. Like it's just grade
It
A, nothing
you know what it
wasted.
reminds me of?
Hmm.
Among Us before Among Us, you know? It is Among Us before Among Us.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Or like werewolf.
Oh yeah, that game too.
Uh,
I mean, it literally starts off with the dog being like the fucking.
Yep.
Ugh. That still haunts me to this day. That effect with the dog in the cage. Ugh.
Yeah.
So that's your
Oh,
fifth pick.
yes, but I also just really quick. I just want to point out the part when the decapitated or not the severed head is crawling away, and they
Oh,
all just slowly turn, and the guy goes, "You gotta
you're gonna
be
be fucking
fucking
kidding
kidding."
me.
I'm like, that I don't even know that character's name. He doesn't do a whole lot in the movie, but that moment, little moments like that, I'm like, I get that character now.
So
I got you. I understand you.
yeah, you know what's funny? I saw someone on Twitter like some post some hot take or something like that, and I was like, hot take,
Twitter.
Halloween is the only good Carpenter film, and I'm like, what? And I legit responded with that GIF. You gotta be fucking kidding
You
me.
gotta be fucking kidding me. Yeah. Good. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because for some reason I always think of that moment when I think of this movie.
So good,
Mm.
so good.
All right,
All
you're up.
right, my fifth pick now, technically. It it's also from 1984, the same year of A Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mm.
and that is, speaking of which, Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
The final chapter,
The
really?
final chapter, the fourth one.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
this one
got
is
you.
actually my personal favorite of the Friday films.
Yeah.
I also really love Jason X as a very campy bad film, but I just
Yeah.
love it though. I can't stop rewatching it as well. But
Yeah.
I will say the final chapter is probably the best one of the Friday films.
Mhm.
Um, like you, I'm just a casual fan of Friday the 13th. I don't love the franchise, but I do like some of the films. I've always appreciated Friday the 13th for what it did in the horror genre.
Yeah.
And and the final chapter definitely proves that it has a place in horror to stay. And that I do hope in the future. I have been hearing that they might make a new Friday the 13th film, which I would absolutely love because it's been a while since we've gone
Yeah.
one.
The
It's not.
license has been tied up.
It's crazy because this, if they make a new one, this would be the 13th film. So it's like, why haven't
Mhm.
they made the 13th film
You
yet?
gotta do at least one.
You
You
gotta do
gotta.
it. You gotta get to the 13th. Well, I heard there's rumors of them making a new one, but we'll see how that goes out from New Line Cinema apparently.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been tied up with legal issues for a
mm-hmm.
long time. Honestly, like even as someone who's not super invested in the series, I'm like, this is getting
I
ridiculous.
know. I just want to see a new one already at this point, and it's like it would be so much fun to watch in the theater. I feel like with
Hmm.
people. Um, but anyways, final chapter to me is like the perfect blend of all the kills, of all the sex, of all the crude humor you can think of in the Friday films. You know,
Yeah.
like just all the sleazy stuff you can think of in any of these types of films. You know, grindhousey type shit.
Yeah.
But I just like it. I just have fun with it, you know? Like it's
Yeah.
just a fun time to watch. Like, and come on, you can't deny Crispin Glover's fucking dance skills in that film is fucking
Honestly,
G.
you could have just said, "Hey, I like the final chapter." Crispin Glover. Moving on. Like I wouldn't
I
have
could have
questioned
just
it.
said that honestly, yeah. Considering that Back to the Future is my favorite film of all time, I could have just said
Hmm.
that and moved on. You know, problem
I mean,
solved.
it honestly is like more memorable than a lot of the sequels that follow it.
I think it's just because of the amount of work they put into it too. Like the cast and crew truly did care about the final chapter,
Hmm.
considering how much money the films were making at the time. So,
Yeah,
and also Tom Savini did the effects of this one too, and you can tell like the fucking effects are just fucking glorious in this film, man.
they are. Yeah.
You can tell it's Tom Savini's great handiwork.
Yeah, he's really starting to perfect his craft at that point.
So while I don't think all of the Friday films are perfect, in fact, I some think are terrible, like genuinely terrible,
Yeah.
I do think this franchise has a legacy, and I do think that it should at least have one more film, considering it's the 13th. It would be the 13th one, you know?
Hmm.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your sixth film now?
1958's The Fly.
The original Fly.
We're going, yeah, we're getting classy up in here.
So
We're
not
going,
even David Cronenberg's The Fly.
listen, I like David Cronenberg's The Fly just fine. I like it quite a bit, actually.
It has Jeff Goldblum in it.
It has Jeff Goldblum in it. I completely forgot about the abortion side plot.
Oh god.
Um, he has some really good the Fly politics line is really good. The practical effects, stunning. Um, as I've gotten older and turned more into a jaded, cynical asshole, I find that that movie also is sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it feels like it's more concerned with showcasing special effects than it is about the things that it was setting up before,
Hmm.
and it loses a little. It recaptures me later, especially at the end, but it wavers a little bit. I think that the original Fly is a lot more reserved than it really had any right to, because that was during an era where you could have totally gotten away with just having like a big stupid fly mask and a dude running around like trying
Mm-hmm.
to choke people out. You could have totally done that. But the fact that they went a different way with it, and it was actually a lot, it was very clever. There's a lot of really good moments of just the smallest things. Just trying to catch a fly with a um little net catcher thing suddenly becomes the most important thing in the world. Um and your lead guy also, I empathize a little more with him than I do with Jeff Goldblum's uh character, where like they're both tragic, but the guy in the original, Dante, feels a little more uh what's the word I'm looking for? Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But
Stupid.
in like a Jack Skellington kind of
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah,
He just kind of lost his head in the clouds. He's maybe a little too ambitious, but it's not out of any kind of self actualization or anything like that. He's not trying to prove anything to anybody. He just wants to, ironically, he didn't stop to think about whether or not he should. Whereas Jeff Goldblum's version feels a little more, he has more of an entrepreneurial spirit to him, and that I don't like that person as much.
He
I
seems
empathize
to
with him
have a
later.
more like calculated approach, whereas
Yeah.
the guy in the original feels more genuine and family like, you
Hmm.
know? You feel
Yeah.
bad when he actually goes through the motion of being a fly, you know?
And they do a good job also of building the suspense up of what happened to him. Because there are some times where you can feel in his body language that something's wrong with him, but then immediately you see a physical change where he's trying to pull back and fight it. So underneath the cloth that he has hiding his fly face, you do start to get the sense that there is something he's mutating. There's something else more going on underneath there. It's more subtle, and I appreciate subtlety.
I think subtlety sometimes leads to even more terrifying things, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's just how it is sometimes in life.
Oh, and the final shot too, or not the final shot, but like the without spoiling it. There's a reason why people were quoting the help me" line for so long.
Mhm.
It's it wasn't
I
because
think
of
it
the
was because of
Cronenberg
this.
version.
Yeah, it was because of this version.
Yeah, it's because of the original, and there's a reason. It's also a pretty breezy sit. Like it's a slow burn of a movie. It's definitely not like a horror movie. But it's also a quick sit, so you don't really lose out if for just fucking trying it.
Mm-hmm. So that's your sixth pick, The Fly from 1958.
Sure is.
All right, good choice, classic choice
What if,
there.
what if I just said, no, you know what? I'll take it back after saying
It
after
just
saying all
says
that. What
it's just you changed it to David Cronenberg's version. Yeah, to change the
like, no,
poster.
actually, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. To go with that.
It's just such a good. That's a good movie too, actually. By the way, I really like Across for Our Space, but I don't have it on my list here this week.
What is on your list?
Oh well, I think it actually came out the same year as Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Well, the next one on my list would have been Evil Dead 2, but we already talked about Evil Dead 2, so I have to move on
Mhm,
to the next one. So my
mhm.
next one on my list is Child's Play, Chucky.
Really?
Well,
Okay.
okay, I'm not talking
All
about the
right.
first one in particular. I'm going to be talking about the franchise as a whole, because
Interesting.
I actually think the Child's Play franchise is my favorite horror franchise of all time, just because of the sheer continuity
Ugh.
and the way it has connecting all of the films together is
Mhm.
pretty impressive to me. Like, and just all through the dedication of Don Mancini and Brad Dourif and Jennifer Tilly being
Yeah.
so dedicated. They're Oscar-winning actors, but they clearly love this franchise so much that they're doing a TV show right now of it. So, I mean, to me, Chucky has always stood out as one of my favorite horror movie villains ever, because just the idea of a doll coming to life and just killing
Mm.
you is pretty
Yeah.
terrifying on its own.
Yep. This is where it started.
This is where it started, and a lot of people are this is the reason why a lot of people were hesitant to buy teddy bears at that point, because this is like fucking what if it came to life and killed you all of a sudden. I mean, obviously it wouldn't do that, but like the it was just a thought process parents had apparently when this film came out. So it was the
Yeah.
80s, people were kind of weird at the time. So,
Well,
but
and there were a lot of really popular talking doll toys in the 80s, and I mean a
oh
lot.
yeah, there's what like there's Cabbage Patch Kids. There were like
Yeah.
Care
Cabbage Patch,
Bears.
My Buddy, Care Bears, Teddy Ruxpin. There was
There's
quite
a
a few.
lot. So that's probably
Yeah.
why people were freaked out of this movie coming out. Is because
Hmm.
the idea of a talking doll killing you is like,
Hmm.
ooh, that is pretty freaky. If I had to
Yeah.
choose one, of the franchise, what is my personal favorite
Yeah, I was
of
gonna
all the
say,
films?
like, if you had to pick
If
one.
I had to choose one, it would be Child's Play 2, just because I think it gets the best balance of comedy and horror to a
Okay.
degree.
All right.
Followed up by Curse of Chucky, the first directed DVD sequel. Um,
Okay.
I love both of them, and I
Hmm.
think I think the whole franchise itself is just fun to watch. Like, even the worst film in the franchise is still entertaining to watch. Like, it's never boring. Like, I can easily get through it than the worst Halloween film. Like,
I find that very easy to
yeah.
believe.
So, and the TV show honestly is amazing. Like, I love the TV show so far. It's
Hmm.
been really great. It's easily the best sci-fi production they've done. Like the Sci-Fi Channel is doing this production. It's easily the best
Mm.
production they've done by far. So yeah, Chucky is still strong to this day. Like, all thanks to the creators and Brad Dourif, of course, playing Chucky through the year. Again, like Robert Englund, Brad Dourif has reprised the role of Chucky in all of the films.
Yeah, he is. Even though, like, I don't have I'm not a beacon of knowledge for the series, but the ones that I have seen, like, he's always done a fucking bang up job.
He has never ever slacked off in the voice work of Chucky, and I've always loved his commitment to the role. And
Yeah.
Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany
Yeah.
too. So yeah, personally, Child's Play really holds a special place in my heart as
Mm.
it's just being a damn fun franchise. Like, even the worst film in the franchise can still end up being an entertaining one.
Mhm.
Then that goes to show that you've really succeeded in my eyes. To me. All right, so your seventh pick now?
Yeah. Um,
Lucky number seven.
waffling between these two. I'll go with Trick or Treat as my number 7. Yeah.
That's also one of my choices.
Nice. Yeah.
So, you
See,
know what? I'm just gonna
on
pull
ya.
that up already then at that point.
Yeah.
I'll just pull it up on my end since that was already
Really?
my choice. It was actually gonna be my second to last choice
Oh
since it
shit.
was in release order.
Damn, jumping ahead in the pages here.
I know, but it's okay. I mean, you said it. We're gonna talk about it. Trick or Treat is awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm it breaks my goddamn heart that this one felt like the last attempt at like a horror anthology in a mainstream movie. And when this movie didn't do well, I was like, well, I guess that's it
Well,
then.
the
We're
problem is
just
that it just didn't do well. It wasn't released in theaters. That was the problem. So WB just thought, oh, this isn't gonna do well. Let's just put it straight to DVD. And
just
it's
crap.
like that's just kind of wrong to me to do, you know?
No.
Because it's like you essentially just screwed over like filmmakers and cast members of like getting like a big following essentially. I mean, thankfully Trick or Treat has now had a big following to today. Like I feel like now more than ever it's been strong with the
Hmm.
following. But back then like I didn't know about this film until my brother legit told me about it on a rental. And I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, what is this?" And we watched it and I was just blown away, honestly, that this wasn't released in theaters.
We this kind of touches on what you were talking about with Season of the Witch, where the first Halloween wasn't really about Halloween, but the third one definitely was more in tune with what Halloween as a whole, as a concept is. I feel like Trick or Treat embodies that pretty well. Like, there are jack o' lanterns everywhere. Like every other scene, every other part element of the movie, whether it's kids going to get candy or like the grown-up parties uh in a neighboring town somewhere else, like everywhere you look it feels like it's Halloween night.
Honestly, this is one of the best movies you could watch of the season, just from
Hmm.
the atmosphere alone.
Yeah.
Like the stories as well are all really engaging to me.
Yeah.
Like none of the
Yeah.
stories are boring at all, like or drag to me.
Yeah. I there was something else I almost put in this spot, but I put Trick or Treat instead just because like it's probably more easily, if anyone listens to these and decides to check any of them out, between the two, I was like, I feel like Trick or Treat's probably easier to find and watch, and I also feel like it has more modern sensibilities where I feel like it would probably land with more people. And I don't mean modern sensibilities in like a subtly shitting on the movie kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
I just mean like it is more of, because originally I was thinking creep show, but that is an element to it that's very specific to when it came out, and it's cute and it's kitschy, but I feel like Trick or Treat is actually scary.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's kind of cool that we inadvertently kind of got a Halloween mascot too, because lots of holidays have some kind of character or mythological character to kind of represent. Christmas has Santa Claus. Um, Saint Valentine's Day has a naked angel. Thanksgiving has dead turkeys. but and then but Halloween never really had one official thing, and it feels like people have kind of like the write-in on a ballot, like they kind of just for the Halloween election they wrote Sam as the write-in vote because he is kind of a perfect mascot for Halloween.
No, I think the Sam character looks amazing, honestly. Like especially when the mask is off. Oh my god.
Yes, especially when the mask is off, but even with the mask on, I don't know, something about it is 50% likable and 50% like, ew, no, go away. they're creeping me out. I
Yeah,
don't like it.
it's
Which kind of
very.
is what Halloween is. It's half fun, but it's also half unsettling and scary.
It's like you said though. I feel like this is one of the last horror films to like really get this atmosphere done well. You know,
Hmm.
like and also like the practical effects in this movie too are just amazing. With
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah, they really help to, especially with the story about the grown up party. I feel like the practical effects really come into
oh,
play
that
in
was
there.
really good too. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked all, like you said, all the stories in this one are really good. That was another
Hmm.
thing about this versus Creepshow. Creepshow, like people have varying opinions on the stories in that one,
Yeah,
whereas everyone seems to agree with Trick or Treat that they knocked it out of the park with each story that was told.
and I think that's also due to having just one director and writer. It's a focus, which I'd like.
Mm,
Michael
that's a good point.
Dougherty is a very good writer and director.
Yeah.
From what I've seen him done. I mean, he also did Krampus, which
Mhm.
came out a couple years after this one, and
Boy, you can fucking tell now, can't you?
he also did Godzilla King of the Monsters, which was the second Godzilla film in the Legendary Pictures franchise, which I also personally
Yeah.
liked, but I know some people didn't.
Yeah, it's fine.
I thought it was fun
Fun
because of
fact.
the monster
Um,
parts.
I just sidebar. I'm a huge Godzilla nut. I could tell you the height and weights of all the different generations of Godzilla right at the top of my head. I've been
Maybe
watching him since
maybe
I was
a
2.
Godzilla podcast.
There might be a Godzilla podcast. You never know.
Should we do a Godzilla ranked one day?
We could do it. Oh shit! Don't even get me started. Walk
Oh,
away from this topic. If you get me started, it's like a
we might
champagne
have to
cork.
do this at some point.
It's just gonna go everywhere.
um, but yeah, Trick or Treat. Oh, such a fun movie.
Yeah.
So that's your seventh pick then?
Yeah, the best Godzilla Millennium series movie was definitely. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, we're not talking about Godzilla.
I just hijacked the whole thing.
All right.
When
What's
Sean learns that you
so?
never mention Godzilla in front of children,
Yeah.
unless you're willing to devote 5 hours to the conversation.
Godzilla's approaching the generator.
Oh, okay. Well, and you found the magic words to get me to
Not
just
like Godzilla anymore.
immediately kill my Godzilla boner. All
It's
right.
kidding. What's all right? Since we technically both went again for Trick or Treat,
Hmm.
what's your next date pick?
Oh, Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, which version are we talking here?
We're talking the Tim Burton one.
Okay, so
I have to watch this every
the
episode.
one with Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Okay,
Although I do have to watch the cartoon every year as well, but it's too short for me to have put it on this list.
I have a confession.
Hmm.
I've never seen Sleepy Hollow.
Really?
No.
Your assignment tonight is to go watch Sleepy Hollow. Because okay. Is it a good adaptation of the story? No. Is it like not even close? They managed to all the events in the original story are basically done in the first like 25 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is fan fiction. Um, but something about it has this deliciously macabre Tim Burton just going completely nuts with the movie. The whole thing, top to bottom, every shot in the movie. I'm like, "Yep, that's a Tim Burton movie, all right."
Yeah,
And
I've heard about the production design being gorgeous in this film.
yeah, it really is very striking. Every shot in the movie, even if the shot itself, like what they're doing with the camera, is super boring, you never notice because every image that you're presented with, even if sometimes it's a little like, what was that about? It's got all the Tim Burtonisms in it. Um, and I still have qualms with the movie too. Like it's definitely not perfect. Um, there's a scene where they go to visit like a hermit character out in the woods, and they do a really unnecessary CGI effect on her face that clashes with the realism of the entire rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's almost no CGI in the movie. It's kind of incredible. But whenever it does pop up, you're like, ugh, that's
It
not.
was 90 CGI, so I mean
It's all,
it's
but it's also that they spent so much money on the conventional effects and the production design that they were like, we got to cut money somewhere. And unfortunately, it was in the. But it pays off because again, the visual design of the movie is great. Um, Johnny Depp is actually doing like a character performance, and he's not just putting on a stupid hat and talking funny. He's actually got like a character.
I've always thought
Um,
he had some character in some Tim
right,
Burton movies.
right.
I mean,
Uh,
I mean, I didn't see Sleepy Hollow, but I think Sweeney Todd is really good from him and Tim Burton.
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that was one of his last really good good performances.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like there is some. It's interesting that you bring that up because there is some common ground visually between
The two.
Sweeney Todd and Sleepy Hollow.
I can
They could
see that.
almost they could almost be cousins
That's probably
because
why Tim Burton wanted to do Sleepy Hollow. You think? Sweeney Todd? Do you think?
it could be, especially when there is blood. It's so obviously fake. It almost looks like red oil paint. It's so fucking fake, but it's intentional because the rest of the
It
movie
just
is so
stands
black.
out.
It stands out. It pops more. And then with Sweeney Todd's, it worked on another level because Sweeney Todd is based on a musical, and you obviously can't use certain mixtures for fake blood on a stage, so you use XYZ, and it ends up looking like the blood they use. So it helps to kind of recapture the element of watching it as a stage performance. Similarly with Sleepy Hollow, some of the moments are definitely like, is this like a fucking soap opera? Why is it so extra? Why is he shouting? There's only two people in the room. He doesn't need to shout. Who I wish would have put that kind of I would prefer over than under in terms of performance though. You know who's not giving enough is fucking Christina Ricci.
Oh,
If we're talking about qualms with the movie, I'm just gonna set this standard for you right now. She is awful in that movie.
oh, that's not. I love her as Wednesday in Amsterdam.
Yeah, well, that role requires her to not emote. This role requires her to emote, but apparently no one told her that because there's legit a scene where she looks right at Ichabod Crane. She goes, "Goodbye, Ichabod Crane. I cursed the day you came to Sleepy Hollow." I was like, "Oh my god, is that the best take you got out of her? Jesus Christ! Fuck, go back and do it again." Tim Burton, I know you care about movies, or at least back then you did. Um, Fun trivia fact for that movie. Uh, the horse that Ichabod rides in that movie, Johnny Depp fell in love with that horse and he adopted him as his own
Oh, that's
because
cute.
he loved that horse so much.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, just like even if the script itself is kind of whatever, just the stark visuals just has sets the perfect Halloween tone for me.
Very, very nice, sir.
Okay, I'm done.
So, I don't know if you're gonna like my next pick. I don't
Oh,
know.
are we gonna fight?
I don't know if we're gonna fight, but I don't know if
We
you're gonna
going with
like it.
war? All right.
Scream.
Yeah, that's fine.
You expected that, honestly, on any list for Halloween.
I I would have fought you if you picked any of the sequels,
I
just
mean,
because I don't really care for the Scream series, but the first one is to me is the best one.
I love all of them personally, but I mean, I've always thought they were just so entertaining to watch. All of them.
Mm,
Like Wes Craven clearly has a love for this franchise too, and like he brought so much dedication and hard work to this franchise as much as to Nightmare on Elm Street, you know.
mm,
So and like originally he wasn't gonna do this one. Like he actually turned it down twice because he was tired of doing horror films. But when he
yeah.
read the script, he was like, "Oh, this is actually really neat," and paid references to his own horror films too. so that's why he also loved it too. So that's I think it's just really cool that a horror veteran acknowledges like at the time Kevin Williamson wasn't really a known writer at the horror
No.
space. So when this script came to Wes, he was very shocked that somebody new like him would do something like this. So it's like honestly, it was pretty innovative at the time to do something like Scream for a horror film because no one was really doing it, like making references to other horror films and stuff like that, and being like kind of like break the fourth wally, in a way. I don't know. Is that how you describe it? Scream in a way,
As what?
as break the fourth wally.
It scratches at the fourth wall. I don't know that it breaks the fourth wall.
I was about to say maybe scratches the fourth wall.
Yeah, it kind of scratches and trips at it. There's a movie around that same time period. Actually, it's a little bit before it, I think. It's called Student Bodies. That movie breaks the fucking fourth wall for sure.
Never heard of that
Um,
one.
it's not. I think it. A lot of people say like, "Oh my god, Scream just ripped off Student Bodies." I'm like, okay, I may not like Scream all that much, but like, it, believe it or
No.
not, it's possible to have the same idea and be two different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I think that I can kind of see a similar skeleton, but Student Bodies is an out and out comedy. It's never Scream is trying to still be suspenseful while at the same time kind of taking the piss out of the genre as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Student Bodies is explicitly just there to make fun of the series. Not in a stupid, schlocky, scary movie kind of way, but it's still an interesting watch, just in the vein of like seeing something that's like you said, like knocking down the fourth wall.
Yeah, so I love Scream for just the entertainment value of all of them, honestly, and like the cast and crew have always been dedicated to this film franchise, like Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David
Matthew
Arquette,
Lillard.
the trio everybody loves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're always been dedicated to this franchise all the way up to the new one right now.
Hmm.
Unfortunately for the sixth one, Nev Campbell isn't returning for it because negotiations apparently fell through with salary disputes. That's
Mm.
unfortunate. Um, but
We'll see how that works out.
I personally think Scream is a really fun time to watch with friends. Get a group of friends to watch on the Halloween season. You'll have a good time watching Scream. I feel like. Okay, so that's my eighth pick. So, I guess we're down to our last two picks now.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay,
9 and 10.
so what's your second to last pick now?
Um, Kind of in the same vein as you when as a whole you did the Child's Play series. I was actually glad that you did that because I thought I was gonna like I'm kind of bending the rules here. I don't know if this is gonna be okay. Um, my second to last is the Hammer films. Just
Oh,
the
you know what?
whole series,
I
all
love that choice. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna put down a picture of the Hammer horror movie villains here. Then, I love Hammer. Hammer is one of my favorite studios for horror.
the it's not that I don't like I've seen multiple interpretations of Dracula, the Bela Lugosi one. I forget his name, but there's a Spanish Dracula who's actually really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Oldman. I've seen a lot. Um, but being younger, growing up, you get used to horror movie monsters, especially for the Universal ones, being a certain kind of way. You're like, all right, they'll like grab a guy or something and they'll struggle a bit, but that'll be it. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
The Hammer films are fucking violent as hell. They are balls to the walls. Like, it's not even just the violence. I'm like, there is rape in those movies. Like, there is a lot of, like,
It's not
it's,
for the faint of heart sometimes.
nope, nope. And honestly, I'm kind of like, this is kind of what the subgenre of like vampire movies really needed was a big big kick in the crotch to get him going. And Christopher Lee, man alive, like that guy is he's an extraordinary Dracula. Like Bela Lugosi is probably like one of the best Draculas. Christopher Lee is my favorite Dracula. Like he is outstanding. Peter Cushing is Van Helsing. Why the fuck not? Like Grand Moff Tarkin running around staking vampires. I'm into it. If I had to pick one, um, I mean the first one is really good. Um, I like Prince of Darkness also though, the third one. Um, for now, that's my answer. Is Dracula Prince of Darkness? Um,
So that's your favorite like Dracula Hammer film and stuff like that?
Probably because I mean there aren't very many that have both Peter Cushing and Christopher. Well, I guess Satanic Right.
Surprisingly, the one I love is not with Peter Cushing. It's Dracula has risen from the grave. I really like that one actually.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, there's not really a wrong
Other
answer.
other than probably Horror of Dracula, which is the best one in my opinion.
Which one?
The Horror of Dracula, the first one, that's also I think
Oh,
that's the best one in my opinion.
yeah. I'm waffling between them, but for now I'll stick with Prince of Darkness as mine. I mean, I guess Peter Cushing is in the Satanic Rites of
He
Dracula
is,
also.
but that's just kind of a boring one. It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's not.
boring.
It doesn't really. It's having them both in it is a novelty that doesn't
It
carry the rest
doesn't
of that
mean it's a
movie.
good film. It just because it has both of them.
Oh my god, I got into it with one of my coworkers because they were like, "Oh my god, I didn't mind Halloween Ends at all because the new guy Corey was super cute." I was like, "Then watch a porno."
What's your for?
That's what porn's for, is to watch a movie with someone that's attractive that you want to fuck, not because I want to watch a movie to watch a movie. God damn, I don't understand that logic. I've never wanted to see a movie explicitly because, well, maybe not never, but I've not recently, not in the last 20 years, seen a movie explicitly because the lead or side character was hot. That's not enough for me. Anyway, tangent. Yeah, the Hammer films are some of my favorite like series. Like I've seen the Mummy series, I've seen the Frankenstein series. There are really solid entries in those, and then there are really bad ones in those series.
hmm
Um, I think the Hammer series, for the most part, like we said, the Satanic Rites of Dracula is like not great. But it has such a stark identity from the other Universal monsters like reboots and attempts at new things that like eh, maybe I'm biased. I don't know. I have such a soft spot. I have to watch at least one or two of these every
Oh
October.
no, I do as well because like I actually really love the Mummy as well from Hammer, which
Yeah.
also has Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Hmm.
Um, I love I love Hammer. Just the amount of production design they put into those films too. The
Yeah. No
gothic
kidding.
scenery is just so gorgeous to look at.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They really nailed, like you said, like gothic design. It actually also kind of reminds me of a side tangent. The original Candyman has kind of a gothic feel to it, but like urban.
Mm-hmm.
I think that movie does a really good job of capturing that essence too.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Hammer Films. Oh, what a company. What a good horror
Yeah.
company.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my ninth pick is a bit of a drastic different tone from Hammer. Very
Hey, go.
different from
That's
anything we've
right.
done here, honestly. We talked about a lot of like blood and guts,
Mhm.
lots of zombies and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
kind of went with a more different approach with this next choice, second to last choice here.
Mhm.
And that is Halloween Town 2, Cowboy's Revenge.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Do you
What
not
is
know what Halloween
happening?
Town is? You do know what Halloween Town is, right?
Oh, I know what Halloween
Oh, of
Town
course
is.
you know what I'm talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
so I went with Halloween Town 2 in particular because I love the first one, but I think the second one has a better feel for Halloween to me, at least.
Mhm.
Man, I don't know. I always have to watch
Talk
these
to me.
films in the season, man. Like they're just so
Talk to me
fun.
about Halloween Town. Talk to me about it.
Dude, they're just so much fun. Like a decom in any situation is just like honestly kind of like a stress relief to watch because they're just some of the most innocent, friendly stuff you can watch. Like they're just so much fun. Like it's just you can't really like complain about them per se. Like with the Disney Channel film.
Mm.
Because like even with some Disney Channel films, they actually put a lot of effort into some of their productions, especially with Halloween Town. There's a lot of great stuff in Halloween Town, like with the production design and sets and makeup effects. So um, I just feel like with every year, like I always have to put on Halloween Town and Halloween Town 2 because they just get me already in the mood. Like they get me in the Halloween mood, and Debbie Reynolds is so sweet as the grandma in these films. Like, may she rest
I've
in
only
peace.
I've only seen the first one.
You've only seen the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's your assignment tonight. Go on Disney Plus and get on Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge.
All right.
Because I don't know what it is, man. Like, the Halloween Town films are just a joy to watch during the season. It gets me in the mood all the time.
Ew.
Maybe not
Oh.
that way.
Oh, you meant like, oh, gotcha. Okay. That's been. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
You dirty whore.
Coming down to the last of it, huh?
Oh, this last choice for both of us, yes.
Yeah.
So what's your
Well,
last movie?
well, it's not a movie.
It's not a movie.
It's departing a little bit, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention this because I don't know when we'll get another chance. There's not something about this is straight up magical. And I've watched it multiple times, and I've given up trying to figure out what it is because I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer.
Keep me in suspense here, man.
And I'm honestly kind of okay with just letting it be an unsolved mystery. Um, it's Over the Garden Wall.
Oh, you know what? I've seen this with some friends recently, and I really, really, really liked it.
Something about it. I have not felt such a genuine wave of whimsy since I. This is the closest that I felt to like recapturing how I felt the first time I watched The Wizard of Oz. Like I felt like I genuinely felt like a kid again.
So, if you guys don't know what this is, Over the Garden Wall is a 10 episode miniseries where it takes place during the season of Halloween.
Mm.
It focuses on these two kids who, one of them is played by Elijah Wood, of all people, believe it or not. And it's just like, I don't even know how to describe it per se, but it's just so trippy, weird, but also just so fascinating to watch in a
It
way.
is, and it's really fascinating. It has a like sitting down to watch it, and something about the intro music for each episode playing out as you sit down and the title card comes up. It feels like the film equivalent of kids gathering around for story time.
Yeah, and like it also has Christopher Lloyd. In case if anyone else doesn't know, as a
Mhm.
main voice cast member, and I love him so much. So
Mhm.
yeah, Over the Garden Wall just brings up. I watched this last year with some friends for the first time, and it just brought out so many Halloween feelings to the
It's not
screen.
it's not scary, but it's unsettling.
It's
It's
yeah,
not out to scare you, but you get scared sometimes.
it's a kid show still, but it still has that creepy imagery that
But
that.
it never treats but the fact that it is a cartoon and the fact that
Mm-hmm,
it is a kid show never feels like an influential factor in how it
mm-hmm,
presents anything. Characters, story, art, the character or the story beats, none of that ever is impacted by the fact that it's animated or that it's for kids. It
mm-hmm.
never talks down to kids. It just kind of lets them kids probably like being scared a little more than they let on. As long as they feel like it'll be okay in the end and that they're not in any real danger, they're not necessarily unopposed to it, which is kind of why things like Secret of Nim and Short Circuit 2, things like that got away with being sad or scary because they were just little moments. And Over the Garden Wall picks its moments really well. The characters are immediately identifiable. Like the little kid, his first lines in the entire show, I'm like, yeah, I know that kid. I've met that kid in real life. I've been that kid
You've
before.
seen those kids before.
We've seen those kids before. In each episode, like they're only 10 minutes, but God, they managed to do so much with their 10 minutes.
It's
And
very,
like
very well done.
it's to the point where I'm like, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, I'm just gonna shut up now and just say that this is probably the one thing on my list that you should have watched or should be watching.
Should have watched at least during this time of season, at least,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of it does. Yeah, it has a perfect fall sensibility, and you could binge it, but I really wouldn't recommend it. I think you should watch like one or two episodes at a time and
Yeah,
just
and then just take it all in, you know? Like, just
it's
take
a
it all in.
yeah, take it in. Like really just kind of let each episode sit with you. The time that you take in between watching episodes, you'll find yourself still thinking about it and still the emotions that you went through kind of in some way still resonate throughout your day to day. And when you sit down with just like tea or cider or a beer, I don't care. You turn the lights down just a little bit and let that intro music just kind of soothe you into it. Like, oh God, fucking just mwah, perfect.
Good final pick, good sir. Good
Thank you.
final pick. So, I'm down to my final pick now, which would be the most recent film
Mm.
of my picks
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
Um, since I did it on release year order.
Hmm.
This was also my favorite film of 2020, believe it or not. So, it's a big recommendation from me, at least,
Mm.
and that is the Invisible Man remake from 2020.
Ooh, I
Uh,
heard that was super good. I wanted to see it.
it really stood out to me that year. So we talked about Universal classic monsters with Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from Black Lagoon, and then of course there's the Invisible Man in
Yeah.
that conversation.
Hmm.
Out of all the Universal monsters, honestly, the Invisible Man freaks me out the most because what
Hmm.
if somebody is crazy and just turns invisible and just goes on killing spree and you don't know it? So it's
Yeah.
like, and what really made the remake of this stand out to me was the fact that it was like an abusive person too, like an abusive
Yeah.
ex. Like it
Hmm.
just really like hit it harder for me because I've had friends that have dealt with abusive exes. I've had some some people that I know that have dealt with abusive exes, and and I've had to be there to comfort them. And, you know, it's just the feeling they have of the paranoia they feel afterwards is unsettling and sad to me. And that's
Yeah.
where this movie really shines to me is that it gets that feeling to a T, in my opinion. So, and it just adds on to the fact that the fucking guy's invisible and kills people. So it just makes her fears even more vindicated, you know?
Yeah.
It's, Elizabeth Moss does a fantastic job in this film. Like, she is so believable as the main character here. She's our main protagonist. Cassie is her name,
Hmm.
and she's very fucking good in this film. And I also want to shout out to Aldous Hodge, who is the best friend of the character in the film, and
Hmm.
he's really good in all the films I've seen him in. He was recently Hawkman in Black Adam. I don't know
Okay.
if you saw Black Adam yet,
Not yet.
did you see the previews with Hawkman in it? That's him.
I've honestly stayed like
Oh,
as
away
dark
from
as
it.
I could
Okay,
on, you know.
okay, gotcha. But anyways, the Invisible Man, yeah, this was this was my favorite of 2020. It was my favorite horror film of 2020.
Mm.
and it just really stood out to me in terms of the directing, the cast, the sound design too. Oh my god, sound design really got to me in this film.
It's funny that I mean, I could kind of tell from the trailers that they were going more serious route with it, but the reception that I heard after it was so interesting to me because if you go back and you watch the original, the very first Invisible Man film they made, it's way more funny than it is
It is
anything
funny
else.
as fuck, and even if you
Yeah.
watch the Paul Verhoeven Hollow Man movie, it's still kind of cheesy in some aspects of it. Like,
Yeah.
but this film, oh my god, it's scary as fuck. Honestly, like it did scare me in a lot of
Mm.
moments, and that's why I do think the Invisible Man, the this remake in particular, I actually prefer over the original in my honest take.
Fair
So
enough.
if you haven't seen the Invisible Man, I highly recommend that too.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick with a question
Mm.
that's horror themed. Um, if you were gonna like if someone was curious about where to start with horror movies,
Where should they
what would
start?
where would you point them at?
Like in my list here, or like just in general?
Anything at all.
Um, I would probably point them towards. Um, I mean, honestly, like it just depends on what your subgenre is. I mean, I've seen a lot of people be into certain subgenres of horror and stuff like that. But also, like, if you really want to get your foot into the ground of horror, I'd say maybe take a dig at some of the classic stuff. Maybe like
Dracula.
Dracula, like Frankenstein. See how you feel about those, and then maybe just ease in towards like the modern stuff. Like The Shining or like you know
Mm,
classic.
Suspiria. Well, no, Suspiria's maybe not.
Maybe not Suspiria because that could be a little too much
I
for the
jumped in a
eyes
little deep
at
there.
times. But maybe something like Halloween 1978. That's pretty tame. So
Like,
I recommend that.
yeah, okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's our whole list now of
Yeah.
films, technically companies, TV. I mean,
Um, yeah. That's it's not like I mean it's thematic in the sense that it's, what we like and it's horror.
mm-hmm,
But like I mean, like I said, Halloween and October can mean a lot of different things. For some people, like Halloween is fun times and not scary times. For
mm-hmm.
other people, it's all about the gore and the and the frights. They going to haunted houses and
Or
having
some
people jump
people, it's
out at
just
you.
staying at home and watching a horror movie. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Like, there's
no,
always so many great traditions of horror and
hmm
Halloween that there's not a wrong answer to celebrate it. Like, it's always
no.
widely celebrated. And
For for every for every David Cronenberg movie, there's a Hocus Pocus or a Ghostbusters. Where
exactly.
yeah,
So there's something for everyone, I think, in horror, and I think there is that's why I think horror is one of the best genres out there to look
yeah,
at. You
there's
may not
something.
like some of it, it's understandable, but
Yeah,
it's definitely something I think a lot of people can get into easily.
the emotions, something about horror taps right into something that's so instinctual and felt through all human beings. We
Mm-hmm.
all feel fear to some degree. And something about that just really, because there are some people who are like, I don't like action, or like, and comedy is very subjective.
Yeah.
So sometimes comedies don't always land with people, but horror has something that everyone feels. And like you said, like the subgenre, you know, is a factor. Like everyone's afraid of different things. Jaws will not be as scary to some people as like Poltergeist will, but the bottom line is the fear that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's, not actually life threatening, you end up walking out of it like a roller coaster, like, oh my God, I survived. I did it. I can't wait to talk about it with, my family and my friends and all that shit. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I had a really fun time doing this list with you, man. So thanks
Yeah.
for taking the time. We definitely took a lot of time making this list.
I'm gonna
um,
I'm gonna take a little more time with a lightning round because I have a challenge for you.
Oh,
I have
okay.
some I have homework for you. I want to expand your and if those of you listening to this, if you're looking for a bit of a challenge in your horror library, I've got some stuff that your mileage may vary. It's not all going to be for you, but I can guarantee I've got a lightning round real quick. I'm just going to fire them off. I'm going to explain nothing, but I guarantee that they are not like anything else you've seen. All right, here we
Mm-hmm.
go. Spanish Dracula, Alice Sweet Alice, the 1934 version of the Black Cat, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, From Beyond, the 1981 version of the Black Cat, Cemetery Man, Tourist Trap, the Coffin Joe series, and anything directed by Takashi Miike. Just anything that he's directed. Just throw a dart, whatever it lands on, watch it.
Good honorable mentions there. I also want to give some shout outs to horror films that actually came out this year that I probably will
It's
also
been a
talk about
yeah,
on my list maybe later this year, but I just want to point them out.
yeah.
The newest Hellraiser on Hulu was very good. It was with Jamie Clayton as the Pinhead Hell Priest. I
Hmm.
really liked Hellraiser this
Hmm.
year. X and Pearl, of course, from A24 is worth
Hmm.
watching. Um, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was so much fun as a comedy horror film. Like I had so much fun watching Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Um, and I really loved the Black Phone. Mm, Black Phone's probably my
Oh,
favorite horror film
still
this
haven't
year.
seen that yet.
It's really great, and I will definitely talk about more on the end of the year list.
Yeah,
Um,
we've horror has been as a whole has been doing really well this year.
hmm Well, thank you again for coming on by the podcast, talking about some of our favorite Halloween stuff.
Oh yeah, I love this shit.
I do
I
too,
could do
man.
another
Like
two
this is
hours.
my, I think this is my favorite season to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, hands down.
All right. Thank you so much again, man. Where can they find you online again?
You can. My Twitter is just that Samoan guy. It's the same thing as my handle. I believe I have my YouTube like ID or whatever you call it finalized. So you can just do youtube.com/, that Samoan guy. I think that does finally work now.
For sure. All right, and you can also find me on this, of course, subscribing to the channel here and liking what you saw. You can find me on Twitter as well with Sean at Sean Lee Rag, and that's about it. Thank you so much again, you guys, for listening, and happy Halloween to y'all.
Stay spooky. All right, I'm
See you
done.
later,
I'm never
guys.
doing that again. Bye.